How's it going, my peeps? It is now time for the Raw results slash highlights review video. So I'll go over the Raw results and give you guys my thoughts. So the show kicked off with Bret the Hitman Hart coming out. By the way, tonight's show was from Montreal, so maybe I should have went. I knew the tickets were on sale a long time ago, but I didn't end up purchasing any, and then I kind of just forgot about it. But whatever. So, like I said, Bret Hart kicks off the show. So huge reaction from the crowd, huge ovation. And, you know, he can't talk for a while because the crowd keeps chanting his name and cheering and stuff like that. Eventually he starts talking, and he doesn't talk too much until CM Punk comes out and interrupts him. He talks about the screw job, and if he was facing Bret Hart at that time, he would have beat him. And then Bret Hart says, I would have beat you in like under 20 seconds. You know, they go on for a while until at the end, CM Punk basically says he's going to beat John Cena at Night of Champions this Sunday. And then they reveal tonight's Raw Active. If you're not aware what the Raw Active is, it's basically a pool, kind of like Taboo Tuesday or Cyber Sunday, where you get to choose CM Punk's opponent tonight. Last week, you got to choose what Daniel Bryan Kane would do, but tonight was the choice of CM Punk's opponent. You had Brodus Clay as an option, you had Jerry the King Lawler, and Randy Orton. So afterwards, we'll have a tag team match. It's Antonio Cesaro and Rhodes versus the tag team champions Kofi and R-Truth. And Kofi Kingston and R-Truth win the match when Kofi hits the Trouble in Paradise on Antonio Cesaro. And then afterwards, you got this segment with Sheamus, David Otunga, Ricardo Rodriguez, and Sheamus's lawyer. And it was a pretty, funny segment. Not as funny as the anger management segment, but I'd say it was an enjoyable segment. They were talking about how the bro kick should be banned and stuff like that. And Sheamus was like goofing off, and in the end he bro kicks the camera. And then we've got another tag team match. This time it's a 6-man or 6 woman or diva tag team match. It's Eve, Layla, and Kaitlyn versus Beth Phoenix, Natalya, and Alicia Fox. And the babyface team of Layla, Eve, and Kaitlyn win the match when Eve hits her neckbreaker finisher for the victory. And then you had a backstage segment with the Raw GM and CM Punk, and CM Punk was basically complaining about her booking him in this, match where he doesn't know who his opponent's gonna be, and the WWE Universe gets to choose. And, she basically says, last week you walked off on your match, so, tonight the fans are gonna get to choose who you face. So then we actually have the match. CM Punk comes out, and his opponent is Randy Orton. Randy Orton won the poll, and the one with the second most votes was Jerry the King Lawler. Third one was Brodus Clay, and pretty much, Jerry the King Lawler and Brodus Clay had like both around the same, percentage of, votes. So anyways, on to the matchup. Randy Orton was about to win. He was about to hit the RKO, but Dolph Ziggler interferes, so it's a disqualification. And then Jerry the King Lawler, takes off his t-shirt and is in ring gear, and he goes into the ring to help Randy Orton and even out the odds. And then there's a commercial break. Once we come back from commercial break, we have a tag team match now. CM Punk and Dolph Ziggler versus Randy and Jerry the King Lawler. And in the end, Randy Orton hits the RKO on Dolph Ziggler when Paul Heyman came out, and CM Punk just left the apron and just was talking with Paul Heyman on the outside about Montreal and stuff like that, kind of ignoring the matchup as if, they don't care about the matchup. And while they're doing that, that's when Randy hit the RKO on Dolph Ziggler and got the pinfall victory. And while CM Punk was talking with Paul Heyman, you could hear CM Punk saying, there's no good restaurants here in Montreal. He was dissing the Montreal crowd, I guess, since he's the heel here. So anyways, afterwards, we go to commercial break. Then when we come back, we have Matt Striker trying to get, an explanation from Punk and Heyman. He asks them, about their alliance, and they don't say anything. CM Punk just says, I'm a Paul Heyman guy, and then they leave. And then you've got Kane and Daniel Bryan backstage, and who comes up to them is the actual teacher of the anger management class, and Kane's like, you're the most sadistic guy I've ever seen or met or whatever. I thought that was AJ, but anyways. He says he's got a plan. for them, and it's either gonna work and I guess make them trust each other, whatever, or it's gonna send them to an abyss or something like that, something stupid. Anyways, afterwards, you've got Heath Slater in the ring, and he's supposed to face Zack Ryder. He wants a rematch against Zack Ryder. So Zack Ryder pops up on the Titantron, and he says, I'd love to face you tonight, but I've gotten word that I'm not your opponent tonight. Ryder's not your opponent, but it's something pretty close. And then Ryback comes out, and he squashes Heath Slater, obviously, and wins the match. And then you get a backstage segment with the primetime players and AJ. AJ says there was a mistake, and they're not the number one contenders because they didn't beat, all the teams, I guess, to become number one contender. And she says she's booking them in a number one contenders match tonight against Daniel Bryan and Kane. So the winners of that match move on to face the tag team champions at Night of Champions. So I guess that's the anger management teacher's plan or whatever. So we move on to the match. And at the end of the match, Kane takes out Darren Young, and then Daniel Bryan tags himself in, and Kane gets mad, chokeslams Daniel Bryan onto Darren Young. So the referee counts the pinfall, and Daniel Bryan and Kane win the match. Now, after this match, things started to go downhill pretty quickly. Because during the match, you couldn't hear Jerry the King Lawler anymore. I didn't notice this until I heard the news, but yeah, you couldn't hear him anymore, and there was a reason for that. It's because during that match, Jerry the King Lawler, who was on the announcer's table, collapsed, and he was carried away. So towards the end of the matchup, you couldn't hear Jerry the King Lawler at all, and Michael Cole, kind of sounded wordy or kind of didn't sound the same. At this point, I didn't know what happened to Jerry the King Lawler, but I was told about the news, and then it all made sense. So then you have Del Rio versus Tyson Kidd, and still Michael Cole. I don't recall if Michael Cole was doing commentary at this point or if he was just talking a minimal amount. But eventually, Michael Cole, announces what happened to the crowd, says it's not entertainment, what just happened, and, he tells the people that Jerry the King Lawler collapsed, and they're doing CPR on him right now and stuff like that, so it was pretty worrying, and it just made the whole show, really uncomfortable to watch. People weren't really paying attention to the matches. I wasn't really paying attention to the matches and stuff like that, and it seemed like the superstars were quickly finishing off the matches, or I don't know. So yeah, Del Rio versus Tyson Kidd. I forgot to say Del Rio won the match. And then you had Sheamus versus David Otunga. Sheamus won the match. And, throughout the show, Michael Cole would give us updates on what was happening and stuff like that. And you could tell, in some superstars' faces that they were worried and stuff like that about Jerry the King Lawler. Michael Cole was, definitely looked shaken up. So, afterwards, you also have Cody Rhodes versus Rey Mysterio. Rhodes actually won the match. After he won the match, The Miz was going to attack Rey Mysterio, but Cody Rhodes hits the crossroads on The Miz. And then we actually have the main event, which was Bret the Hitman Hart interviewing Michael Cole. And this was the best segment of the night. And at this point, it wasn't as uncomfortable to watch, just because Michael Cole had given us a few other updates on Jerry the King Lawler, and it seemed like, his condition was getting better, saying that, he's now breathing on his own and was sent to a medical facility. So, things were looking a little bit better. But yeah, anyways, so the segment was a very good segment, especially on the part of Cena. I wasn't that impressed with CM Punk today. I don't know, I found his segments boring, while with CM Punk, he really impressed me tonight, and this promo was freaking awesome. He called out CM Punk on, I guess, stealing the Macho Man's elbow drop, stealing his colors, for his attires. What did he also say? Oh, he also spoke in French. He said, "Je parle un petit peu français," and then said, what did he say? Oh, he said it was a bit botched when he said it, but you can understand, if you speak French, you can understand what he was saying. He said, "Je vais te botter le cul," which means, I'm gonna kick your ass in French. Which the crowd popped for that, and the crowd was actually booing John Cena before and chanting "You can't wrestle" and stuff like that. But then they just started cheering John Cena after he spoke French. So yeah, good segment, and in the end, CM Punk gets mad, and, you know, Bret Hart's like right next to them, but instead of hitting John Cena, he goes to punch Bret Hart, but Cena stops the punch, and then CM Punk attempts one more time to punch Bret Hart, but Bret Hart counters and punches him back. And that's it for that segment. And then right after, we get a final update on Jerry the King Lawler. Michael Cole says, you know, things are looking better. He's breathing on his own, his heart's beating on his own, and that he's getting prepared for a CAT scan. So hopefully Jerry the King Lawler ends up alright. Hopefully he's okay. And as far as the show tonight goes, I mean, I like the ending segment, but, you know, the whole Jerry the King Lawler situation, it just made the whole show uncomfortable to watch. I just had a bad feeling toward, you know, for the rest of the show. So, you know, the update seems like Jerry the King Lawler's, you know, is better now. And, what was I gonna say here? Oh, yeah, and, like, for the rest of the show, after, I think, the Del Rio versus Tyson Kidd match, Cole didn't, you know, say a word. He didn't commentate at all. He said on commentary in one of the updates that he wasn't going to commentate the rest of the show in respect to Jerry the King Lawler. So, yeah, like I said, I hope Jerry the King Lawler is doing fine. And that's pretty much it for this results/review video. Highlight of the night has to be the John Cena segment. He really did a good promo there. So anyways, with that said, I'm out. See ya.